Good morning, class. Welcome to the first topic, the introduction to biology. You have already received the reading material, so before you watch this lesson, you should already have seen the video that was posted in the classroom, the introduction to biology video, and you had a question to answer. If you've not seen that yet, please go back and watch it before you continue with this lesson. Yesterday, you should have also received a copy of the pages from the textbook, The Study of Life, and you should have received your worksheets. Okay, as I said in the message yesterday, it's important that you have access to these because number one, you're going to be reading bits and extracts from the textbook, and number two, you will have to do exercises in the worksheet. Now, it's important to follow through what I ask you to do in this lesson because you don't have to complete everything in the worksheet, but you need to be aware of the exercises that you do need to complete. Now, this lesson is about the study of life. It is an introduction to biology. It is to tell you what the subject is and why it is important. We are going to be considering that biology concerns that all living things share the characteristics of life. Now, at the start of the lesson, we always look at a preview, and you will see, I'll hold this up because you will have a copy of your book. I hope the reflection isn't too bad. But you'll see on the first page, there is a reading preview on the top left-hand side. And this gives you the essential questions. And it also gives you the vocabulary. So at the start of every lesson, we will go through that to give you an understanding of why we're doing the lesson, and to give you an opportunity to practice the new vocabulary. So, the learning objectives that we'll cover in this lesson. Number one, what is biology? And number two, what are the characteristics of living things? That's part one of the preview, the learning objectives. Part two is the new vocabulary. Now, if we were in a class, I would go through the new vocabulary and I would get you to repeat the words so you have an opportunity to practice your speech. Because we're not in class, you have to do this on your own at home in front of your screen. So I am going to say each word. You will then need to pause the video and repeat it so you can get some practice saying the new vocabulary words. Okay, so I shall say each one. You pause the video, you repeat, and then you can continue. So we start with biology. Organism. Organization. Growth. Development. Reproduction. Species. Stimulus. Response. Homeostasis. Adaptation. Okay, I hope you've had an opportunity to practice saying those words. They're good additions to your vocabulary. Now, the first exercise that you're going to need to do in your worksheets is the new vocabulary exercise. It is taking all of the new vocabulary words and putting them into blank spaces to complete the passage. I think it is better to wait until the end of this lesson before you complete this, because you will have a better understanding of the meaning of the words and where they will fit into the passage in front of you. So don't pause the video, don't do this now, wait until we are complete. Okay, if you look into your book, you will see the first section we are going to cover is the science of life, which is on page 4. The first objective, what is biology? Well, biology is the science of life. The word comes from Greek. Bio means life, and logos means study. So the word biology literally translates as life study. So as part of biology, there are 4 components. Number 1, we study the origins and the history of life, and also of any things that were once living. Number 2, we study the structure of living things. Number 3, we study how living things interact with each other. And number 4, we study how living things function. So that is biology. Biology is the study of life. So if you go back to the learning objectives, objective 1, what is biology? Tick, that is done. Okay. If you look in your books, you will see the next page, page 5, and the start of page 6 is what do biologists do? We're not covering that in this lesson. So we're going to move straight down to the bottom of page 6, the characteristics of life. But you will spend most of your time using the table on page 7, because this table shows you the 8 characteristics that we're going to cover. So, the characteristics of life. Number 1, all living things are made of cells. Number 2, all living organisms display organization. Number 3, all living things grow and develop. Number 4, all living things reproduce. Number 5, all living things respond to stimuli. Number 6, all living things require energy. Number 7, all living things maintain homeostasis. And number 8, all living things show adaptations that evolve over time. Now, anything that shows all 8 of these characteristics are called an organism. So that refers to things that are living now, but also things that once lived but had all of these characteristics. So you could say that we, as humans, are all organisms. We are alive and we show all 8 characteristics of life. But the same applies to a dinosaur. Yeah, there's no living dinosaurs now, but once upon a time they did exist because they showed all these characteristics. You could say that they were living organisms. The next exercise in your worksheet that I want you to complete is this table. What are the 8 characteristics of living things? You can go back and use this slide, or you can wait until we have finished. If you want to do it now, pause the video. What we will do is continue with a little bit more detail about each of the 8 characteristics. So, number 1, anything that is living is made of cells. And we can divide all living things into 2 types. Either those that are unicellular, that is, they are only one cell, or multicellular, that is, they are made of many cells. If you think about different organisms, everyone knows unicellular organisms are things like bacteria or viruses. So our friend COVID-19, the lovely virus that is keeping us all at home, is a unicellular organism. That is, it is made up of one cell. More complex organisms like plants and animals are multicellular. Okay, so that is characteristic number 1. All living things are made of cells. Number 2, all living things display organization. That means they're arranged in an orderly way. And that applies to both unicellular organisms and multicellular. When you think of multicellular organisms, the organization is how molecules and atoms are organized together into cells, which are then organized into tissues, which are organized into organs, and then organized into organ systems. So there is a structure of organization as to how everything functions. The next exercise in your worksheet that I want you to look at is the sequenced level of organization that you see on the screen. You need to start with the least complex and work your way up the ladder to the most complex. So you'll see down the bottom, you have atoms and molecules, and at the top, you have organ system. You need to fill in the steps in between. Okay, we'll continue with the characteristics. Number 3, any living thing grows and develops. Important distinction. So growth is the addition of mass to an organism. So something that's physically bigger, that is called growth. That is different to an organism changing over time as it becomes physically stronger or as it becomes more aware of its environment or develops more abilities. That is called development. So physical mass growth, ability to adapt and change and learn is called development. Okay. Characteristic 4, reproduction. All living things reproduce. The ability of organisms to breed with one another, and produce offspring are collectively known as a species. There's an important distinction here. Reproduction is essential for the survival of a species. If organisms do not have offspring, the species will become extinct. But reproduction is not essential for the survival of an individual. One organism in a species will die, and reproduction is not going to change that. But what reproduction does is ensure that the species survives. So reproduction is not essential for the survival of an individual, but it is essential for the continuation of a species. Number 5, all living things respond to stimuli. So these stimuli can be either internal or external, but anything that causes a reaction is called a stimulus. The reaction that you have is called a response. Look at the table on page 8. This little section responds to stimuli, shows you a picture of a cheetah and a gazelle. The cheetah realizes that it's hungry. That is an internal stimuli. And that stimuli causes a response, which causes the cheetah to go looking for food. So he goes chasing the gazelle. The gazelle sees the cheetah running at her as an external stimuli, because if I don't do something now, the cheetah is going to eat me. So that stimulus causes a response, and the response is the cheetah runs away. So stimuli can either be internal or external. The reaction to both is called a response. Nearly there. Next characteristic. All living things require energy. Living things get their energy from food. Now, you can either be a producer, that is an organism that uses light energy from the sun to make their own food, or you can be a consumer. They are organisms that cannot make their own food. They get their energy by consuming other organisms. Number 7, all living things maintain homeostasis. You would have seen this on the video exercise you did yesterday. Homeostasis is about creating balance. So to make sure that internal conditions are ideal for maintaining life, we make sure that there is a balance. And you saw the example of the feedback mechanisms, that if you get too hot, you start to sweat. That is to cool you down. If you get too cold, your body causes your muscles to shiver and your blood vessels to dilate, so it allows the body to warm up. Homeostasis is about causing balance in your internal systems to maintain life. And number 8, all living things show adaptations that evolve over time. Adaptations are characteristics that are inherited, that evolve in a species over multiple generations. These are adaptations that help the species to survive, and they're usually a response to something that happens in the environment. It's why cactuses can live in a desert, because they have developed to the environment which does not have much water. All adaptations are things that develop over generations and evolve over time. Okay, so take you back to the learning objectives. Number 2 was, what are the characteristics of life? We said that there were 8, and we've covered all 8. You have had 3 exercises that I've asked you to do over this slideshow. So now's the time to complete those exercises. And you will see that there is an assignment in Google Classroom asking you to upload a picture of your completed work. Okay, so complete the 3 assignments, take a picture, add them as an attachment to the assignment in Google Classroom. Just to summarize the essential questions, the learning objectives. Number 1, what is biology? Biology is the study of life. And number 2, what are the characteristics of living things? Well, you've seen all 8, and they are things that you'll be able to remember. Class, thank you very much.